Live, on location, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh here, as Terry Barr said, on location at the United Center in beautiful Chicago, Chi-Town, here in northern Illinois, on the banks of the Lake Michigan area. It is beautiful. It is the 21st of August, 2024. It is Wednesday, Mr. Zommers. It is... Wow. The camel apparently is still in the toilet. It didn't make it to the set on time.
He's doing his best, all right.
Great reverb by the camel here at Chicago. It is a great day to be Wisconsinite, by the way. We are here with our friend, our colleague, our co-host for the week, like myself, a former Republican and now the senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, Mr. Trygve Olsen, native of River Falls, Wisconsin, hockey player extraordinaire, looking dapper today, by the way.
Thanks. That's good to say.
Yeah. I helped Trygve. We talked about this yesterday.
Yep.
He needed a little help, and his wife said, "You're not shopping for yourself unless you got a woman or a gay man." And I said, "Well, here I am."
Right.
So we helped him out. We went to Macy's, and he looked fantastic.
Yeah, I do.
Do you feel good?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
Do I feel good? I feel
I'm concerned about you. I like my guests, my co-host, to feel good about coming on the show.
Oh, yeah, I feel good about coming.
Maybe less so now. I'm not sure. Big show today. Let's improve the program a little bit. Our friend, our colleague, the host of Up North News Radio every morning from 6 until 8, and himself here in Chicago, right across the town here in his beautiful hotel room, Mr. Pat Kreitlow. Mr. Kreitlow, how the heck are you?
I'm pretty good, but I walked 5 blocks up to the Target on Wabash and Madison to get myself a couple of shirts. I seem to have been able to pull that off all by myself just fine, but I'm good otherwise. I'm good.
Well, we all have our gifts and talents, right?
Yes, we do.
So,
yes.
And you're used to working in TV for so very many years, so it all comes naturally to you, Kreitlow.
Oh, let's not give all the credit to TV. I was a perfectly capable fashionista once upon a time.
Okay. Big show. In addition to Mr. Kreitlow and Mr. Olsen, we have coming up a little bit later the wonderful, the talented, the phenomenal Dr. Kristen Lyerly. She is a candidate for the 8th Congressional District in Northeast Wisconsin. She's going to be right here next to Trygve at the table. Then at 1 o'clock, or the 1 o'clock hour, they used to call him Billy Mack. At one time, the youngest chief of staff to a Wisconsin governor, was secretary of the Department of Commerce under Tommy Thompson, and owner of the Janesville Jets hockey team. Bill McCosher will be here. And then at 1:30, Mr. Wonderful John Nichols, formerly still a progressive, a great author, a great writer, a great journalist, has his hand in all things Democratic and politics. John Nichols will be here at 1:30. Big show today, but we start off with Pat Kreitlow. Pat, tell us how you've been, and what are your
big
thoughts?
show today, but we start off with Pat Kreitlow.
It's our leadoff hitter.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
I'll go with that. It's gone well. I am working a convention for the first time. I attended one as a delegate in 2008 in Denver, and I am here to tell you that the former is much more friendly to biology than the latter, which is sleep deprivation and constantly being on the move and equipment that may or may not cooperate with you. It's still a great experience, but all things being equal, I'd rather have a goofy hat on and sit in the delegate section. Did they not make that a real party last night?
It was a fantastic party. It was absolutely a fantastic party. And I've been bumming around with Trygve Olsen here, and I got to keep listening to, when you're a BFD and have a VIP pass to get to go anywhere, like on the McCain campaign, this really sucks not being able to go wherever I want. I mean, that's what I've been listening to.
There's so many levels, but when you know that you've arrived when you're staying in one of the hotels where you have to have a credential and a pass to get into the hotel itself.
Yes.
And
I mean,
the big fencing is all around the hotel.
It's tough being on the outside looking into
there
it.
is such a hierarchy, such a hierarchy. You think that you're all that because you've got a pass to get to the corridors of the convention center, but then the people who have a floor pass look down on you. But guess what? The people who have a stage pass look down on them.
Right.
And then there's the people who have the backstage pass, and I mean they're God. So
Yeah.
there's always somebody to remind you you're not king of the pile.
escort privileges.
Right.
With escort privileges, Pat.
And
right?
remember, we're at the Democratic convention, not the RNC, so escort here has an entirely different
I was not going to make a Rob Lowe joke or anything like that. You guys.
That's funny.
Let's get to the happenings last night, gentlemen. Mr. Zommers, and by the way, the fantastic Mr. Zommers back behind the board for us today. We always appreciate him at the world headquarters back in Madison. Mr. Zommers, let's go down to this Goldilocks cut because Michelle Obama, I thought, blew the roof off the dump, to use a Letterman phrase, last night. I thought she had the best speech of the night. And this, I think, was an important message to Democrats. I want to get both your takes on this. Here's Michelle Obama from last night.
Everyone has enough. So no matter how good we feel tonight or tomorrow or the next day, this is going to be an uphill battle. So folks, we cannot be our own worst enemies. No. See, because the minute something goes wrong, the minute a lie takes hold, folks, we cannot start wringing our hands. We cannot get a Goldilocks complex about whether everything is just right. And we cannot indulge our anxieties about whether this country will elect someone like Kamala instead of doing everything we can to get someone like Kamala elected.
I thought that was a great clip. Pat Kreitlow, longtime Democrat, was one time a state senator on the Democratic Party in the state of Wisconsin. What is your take on this? Because I love that phrase. I thought it was a message to, look, we can have diversity within our party. We can have questions and debate, but we need to come together and can't Goldilocks it. I thought that was beautiful.
Oh, that speech was an instant classic, not just for that section, but the section about most people don't enjoy the affirmative action of generational wealth. There was also the provision about maybe Donald Trump doesn't know that he's running for one of those black jobs that he talks about all the time. It was just immediately a classic speech. And in that particular portion that you played there, could not have done a better job of doing the thing that I talked about the past couple of weeks here with Democrats in Western Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District. And folks will recall in my show, I asked William Garcia, the chair of the 3rd Congressional District Democrats, do you pledge to be the chief butt kicker for anybody who didn't like the way the primary turned out, whoever candidate it was, because I asked him this before the primary, and start kicking butts on people who go, well, my candidate didn't go through, so I'm not going to work as hard as I could. And I still heard a little of that for a couple of days afterwards. And I'm telling you, I did not have kind things to say to them. And Michelle Obama basically said it to an entire country, is things aren't going to go perfectly. But if you take your eyes off the ultimate prize because you let perfect be the enemy of the good, then you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting an entire country.
Trygve Olson, we had right next to you yesterday, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Wisconsin, Sarah Rodriguez. Fantastic. I think we were both phenomenally impressed. She talked yesterday about this, look, I'm here to represent all Wisconsinites, and talked in terms of inclusivity. I thought Michelle Obama, to Pat's point, did that on a national scale.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle Obama's speech, you forget how good both of the Obamas really were at speaking and calming people down while moving them in a direction that they're looking to politically, both of them. And in some ways, her speech was probably better than his.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly at hitting the kind of voters in a place like Wisconsin 3, who are going to decide this thing. The reality is, Donald Trump's doing a lot better amongst white dudes. And there are places in the state, like where Pat is, where you have college-educated white guys whose wives, daughters, everybody that's female in their life is supporting Harris, and they're on the fence, right? Michelle Obama's speech, I think, helped with both how those women have the conversation with the men in their lives, but also in moving the men.
Yeah, I'll never be
go
tired
ahead.
of somebody. I'll never be tired of somebody basically saying to another group, "Get over yourself." that we're all in this together, and we all have to do our part, and that includes sometimes maybe voting for a person or a party that you might not normally be predisposed to support, but when you look at the alternative, it turns out that the one that you normally wouldn't support is the one who's actually closer to your values than the person who wears the label of the party you used to think was better.
Guys, both of you guys have worked in politics for a long time. You know Republican and Democratic parties. Isn't this the sign of a winner? I mean, Barack Obama was a winner. George W. Bush was a winner. Bill Clinton was a winner because they knew how to. Joe Biden was a winner because they built coalitions and didn't get siloed. Pat Kreitlow, to me, this message that we're hearing out of the Democratic convention thus far, out of the Harris camp, what we heard from the Obamas last night, was building a coalition, not being myopic like we heard up at Milwaukee at the RNC.
Well, and especially don't get overconfident, because there's a lot of good feeling that comes out of here, and that's great. But then you've got to translate it into, regular everyday English back home for voters who aren't that jazzed up yet, as Tony Evers would say. Not that energized yet, not that enthused. They still just see a bunch of political ads and go, "Oh, what's in there for me?" And so it was a good reminder over and over again to these delegates and volunteers and leaders to, remember to take this to your main streets and your neighborhoods and talk to your neighbors that way, because if you just assume everybody else feels as good as you, you're going to be sorely disappointed come November.
Trygve Olsen, just a couple more thoughts on the overall from both Obamas last night, besides what we brought up. Any other kind of money lines or takeaways that you really felt strongly about?
No, I wouldn't say that. I just keep coming back to, and Todd, we were in Milwaukee as well, the contrast between the optics of the two conventions. And I think Democrats have done a really good job of conveying that while reassuring on some of the cultural things that are really going to matter to like those Evers Johnson voters in Wisconsin.
Pat Kreitlow, about 30 seconds left. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, you guys have an amazing setup there wherever you're at. It's a 2-camera setup. I'm watching you guys. I mean, this is the best
in Hollywood.
This is the best public access show that you guys could ever hope to put together. I can't wait.
Wayne's World.
It's Wayne's World started someplace, gentlemen, and I only see you guys going up from here. Scott Ross and McCoshin better watch out. You're going to take their slot on public TV.
To quote Donald Trump, no way. Back after this from Chicago, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
My God, look at that setup. That's amazing.
It's very nice.
It is so nice. All right, you kids go have fun. I got to get to McCormick Place for caucus meetings.
Sounds good.
All right. See ya.
Adios.
Adios.
Dude, for like the basement of like the United Center, I'm stoked. I'm here with my buddy Trigby. Way. Welcome back to Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. We are live on location at the United Center at the Democratic National Convention from Lake Superior to Lake Michigan, Green Bay to the Old Mississippi River, and all points in between, wherever you are taking us over your lunch hour across Wisconsin. We thank you for that across Civic Media's Radio Network. We are back here at the United Center. So happy to have, of course, Trygve Olsen, Senior Advisor of the Lincoln Project, with us, as he is every Wednesday. And right now, welcoming to the anchor desk here, Kelly Robinson. She is the president of the Human Rights Campaign. Ms. Robinson, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, happy to be here.
And here's the thing about it. As a gay man, I love this because I like to quote Paula Deen. You have the logo there of the Human Rights Campaign on your, and Paula Deen used to say, "Y'all, it's like 2 sticks of butter." I mean, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Tell folks who might not be aware what you all do, what your organization does.
Yeah, the Human Rights Campaign, we are the largest LGBTQ plus civil rights organization in the country, advocating on behalf of our community, and that's why we're here at the DNC.
So what is your role here? Well, I mean, obviously the president of the organization, but what is important to you while you're here in Chicago?
You know, I want to make sure that the community sees how powerful we are. There are over 800 LGBTQ plus delegates today at the DNC. That's huge. There are only about 4,000 total. You're saying almost a quarter of them are a member of our community. Not only that, when you look across the country, there are 75 million voters that prioritize LGBTQ plus issues when deciding who to vote for. 75 million is more than the total number of registered voters in every battleground state combined. So in the moments that we're feeling nervous about this election or anxious, the antidote to that is to take action and to do it with the members of our community. Because if we vote, if we show up, we're going to win.
I was really struck. We were talking in the last segment with our colleague Pat Kreitlow about the Obamas, Michelle and Barack Obama, President Obama's speeches last night. And we agreed, I think that amongst us three, that Michelle was really the big star of the evening because she put it in terms that folks could understand of inclusivity without beating people over the head. That we're all just people at the end of the day, no matter whether we're gay, straight, black, white, whatever it may be. We're Americans.
Exactly. And for me, it was her tone that really resonated. It was a little bit less they go low, we go high, and more mess around and find out. And I liked that, right? Like, I think that's what people need. We're ready to kind of be in this defiant mix and still find the joy in the fight. The other thing I thought was really special, especially comparing this convention to the RNC, is what patriotism looks like, right? You had people holding signs saying USA, USA. And for being a black queer person that grew up in the Midwest, there have been so many chapters of American history where I never felt that people that were chanting USA included and would advocate for people that looked and loved like me. But in that room, it showed me what patriotism really is. It's fighting for all of us because, as you said, the greatest strength of this nation is our diversity.
Trigger, we were talking about this yesterday about the fact that we were both former Republicans, okay, and we said it used to be we went to our conventions and it was USA and flags and patriotism, and the finger was always pointed at the Democrats as the opposite. Trigger, you were talking about this is just flipped.
Yeah, it's flipped, but I was thinking about after we said that. I mean, it's flipped for a few reasons. One is, as America, sort of that pursuit of being an more perfect nation, right? Like, we've had some bad moments as a nation in terms of division, but we've also, if we look at the longer arc, going back, Obama getting elected, even 9/11 in a way that we came together for a bit, then it kind of got squandered. I think there's probably people on the left that do feel more engaged and connected to the country, right? Like going through all those things. I don't know. Marriage equality happened. And it might be why the shock of Dobbs was so big to so many.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. If you have a time machine, I'm not going to get in it.
Right.
There's no period in America or the world that was better for me to be a black queer woman than right now. Right. And still there's work to do ahead. And I think that we can sit in that duality, right? And what has happened over the last couple of years with the overturning of Roe v. Wade with the Dobbs decision is that it became very clear that if you want to advance this country and not move back, all of our rights are too fragile to sit on the sidelines. So I think that you have people not taking for granted what we have to do to make this American project a reality that can actually feed all of us and all of our families, and experiencing the acute impacts of leadership that can roll us back swiftly and quickly if we don't show up.
We have a great U.S. Senator in Tammy Baldwin who happens to be gay. We both know her. I know her fairly well, and she's been on this show. And what I think Trigby and I love about her is that nothing wrong with leading first with your sexuality, but she leads first as a senator who cares about everyone, somebody who loves the Packers, as Trigby points out, who finishes her beer in northern Wisconsin when she goes to a bar. She makes alliances with otherwise Republican folks in Wisconsin Dells who want better roads and brings infrastructure, and she just happens to be a gay person. And I love that about her, that she puts herself and her humanness and what she does for Wisconsinites first, because I think more that we, as a guy who didn't come out till 38, I think that when people know you as a person first, they really don't care about your sexuality.
Absolutely. And I think, people often ask me, like, what are the top priorities right now for the LGBTQ community? I'm like, we are everyone. I mean, it's the same priorities that teachers care about. It's the same priorities that working people care about. It's the same things that we all care about when we want our kids to be safe. I do think that it matters, though, right now that we understand that they're attacking institutions, right, to reduce our safety in them.
100%.
So there's something acute there, especially with these Supreme Court decisions that are undermining, affirmative action, that created the 303 creative decision that created a legal loophole to discriminating against LGBTQ plus people. That yes, we all have the same values and hopes in life, but there's also an acute attack to remove some of us from being able to participate in public life that we've got to address.
Totally agree. I mean, marriage equality, I remember in 2011 when the Supreme Court codified it. And I love the Willie Nelson quote, asking Rolling Stone. They said, Willie, what do you think about gay marriage? He goes, oh, I'm all for it. He says, they might as well be as miserable as the rest of us. I thought because it just brings it all down. Like, we're all human. And I love that, the Human Rights Campaign, because we're all just human. But you're absolutely right. I was fortunate. I didn't lose any friends or family when I came out because it was later in life. But it's important for people like me to remember there are people who are ostracized, and there has to be places for them, and they have to feel family, and there has to be people fighting for them.
I have somebody that I've been friends with for a long time who's a semi-closeted, gay male, because where he's from in rural Wisconsin, parents. I mean, that still exists, particularly more so with middle-aged and, people who didn't have a chance to. I
just want to give you a quick 30 seconds, 40 seconds. What do you want people to know going away from this campaign, from this convention?
Yeah, I want people to know that November 5th is the last day of the election and not the first, right? Early voting is going to open in a couple weeks. You can still register to vote. We have to do everything that we can every day that we can to win. And I want folks to know, too, that the election isn't the end of this. You can do something every day to make sure that in your community, in your environment, especially queer and trans kids, know that they are accepted and that they are safe.
100%. Kelly Robertson, President of the Human Rights Campaign, you're spectacular.
Back at you.
And you're welcome on this program anytime. Come back when you got more time, another time, all right?
Awesome. All right, take care.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Kelly Robertson, President of the Human Rights Campaign. Appreciate her so much. Another spectacular person on the other side, Dr. Kristen Lyerly. She is going to win this race in the 8th. Mark my words, she's going to be right here when we come back. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
This local program, find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
All the moisture this year put pressure on some hop growers. I'm Stephanie Huff for the Midwest Farm Report along with you on a Wednesday. Four Winds Farm in Fitchburg raises 4 acres of hops. Some of their crop was impacted by a newer disease, halo blight. This is according to farm manager Joey Dunscombe.
So we have a pretty regular schedule to take care of our powdery mildew stuff. So we stayed on top of that for the most part. We did get some halo blight in one of our varieties, which is a brand new disease in hops. First recognized in like 2018, and then like officially recognized in 2021 or something like that. That is something that can happen in hops. We experienced that and we're like, holy cow, what is that? Like, we've never seen this on a hop cone before. And then we brought it into the UW and they confirmed halo blight. So yeah, I think every year there's a new struggle.
Joey Dunscombe along with us. He's the farm manager at Four Winds Farm in Fitchburg, where they raise 4 acres of hops. These hops go to the Wisconsin Hop Exchange after they're harvested in August and go to local Wisconsin breweries. He says despite the halo blight issue, the majority of the hop crop does look good this year. Don't go anywhere. We'll take a look at commodity prices next.
A voice for farmers, a vision for agriculture, Wisconsin Farm Bureau.
Wisconsin Farm Bureau is the trusted voice leading Wisconsin agriculture forward. Our voting members set policy that guides the organization on the local, state, and national level with the ultimate goal of helping farmers like you and me back home. You can make a difference by becoming a member at WFEF.com.
A voice for farmers, a vision for agriculture, Wisconsin Farm Bureau. Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home, auto, business, and life insurance? They make it convenient to bundle your insurance while saving you time and money. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Wednesday from Chicago, corn and soybeans are moving a little higher. Cash corn is up a penny at $3.76 a bushel. December new crop corn is up 3/4 cents at $3.98 3/4. Cash beans are up a penny and a half at $9.58 3/4. November new crop beans also up a penny and a half at $9.77 1/2. But cash and new crop wheat is trading lower, down 10 cents at $5.23 a bushel. Looking at the Class 3 milk contracts, September milk is sitting neutral at $22.50 a hundredweight. The October Class 3 milk contract is down 12 cents at $22.56. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Stephanie Hoff.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
Super sunny today with comfortable high temperatures smacking the mid-70s. As we stay clear tonight with light winds, we fall crisp. But we warm a little bit more with high temperatures tomorrow cranked up to the upper 70s. Enjoy the beautiful weather. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 69 degrees.
Burlow has a lifetime comfort guarantee because you can't risk it when it comes to that all-important, never long enough, cozy dreamland we call sleep. You can't let something like a mystery-made mattress in a box get between you and that much-needed shut-eye. We will adjust the comfort of your mattress for its lifetime, and we call that a lifetime comfort guarantee. And for that, you gotta go to Verlo. American-made, locally crafted, welcome to Verlo.
The Democratic National Convention is in Chicago, and our team will be there to tell you what you need to know. I'm Civic Media News Director Terry Bell.
And I'm Todd Allbaugh, host of the Todd Allbaugh Show. Count on us for important analysis, interviews, and the Democrats' nomination of their presidential candidate.
Live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Listen for updates, plus special coverage at 6 each night. Find it on your local Civic Media radio station.
You don't own me. I'm not just one of your many toys. You don't own me. Don't say I can't go with other boys.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show, live from the United Center here in Chicago, Wisconsin, at the Chicago, Illinois. Honest to God, I've had nothing to drink this morning. It is coming up here at 34 and a half minutes past the hour of 12 noon. Mr. Zomerins, what did you dial up there for us?
Why, that's Dr. Lyerly's theme song, You Don't Own Me by Leslie Gore.
I know. And as it happens, and we've talked about this a little bit the last couple of days, security seems to be maybe a little tighter in some ways. But I don't know about you, Trigby. Again, you've been to a lot of these on the Republican side. I was trying to get out last night at about, I don't know, 5 o'clock. And I had to wait a half an hour to get out. I mean, the
Yeah.
setup here is just not ideal in terms of logistics.
Well, because the entire thing is predicated on letting good people inside and making it as hard as possible for bad people to get in, which leads to it's going to be really hard once good people are in to get them out.
So anyway, that's what we're up against here. Is Dr. Lyerly is on the outside looking in, but by golly,
And we're on the inside looking out,
Exactly.
and somehow we've got to.
But by golly, here's what's going on. Brian Kelly, who is running our sound for us, is such a wonderful guy. He has taken a credential and he is on his way to give Dr. Lyerly a personal escort in. So she'll be here soon.
But yes, with your Secret Service credential.
With my
attached to
credential,
it.
with my credential, yes.
Right.
So I'm credentialless, but have no fear. We have people on the phone calling in 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Let's go to the phone lines. I believe who is first, sir, Mr. Sommers?
That would be Troy in Mount Horeb.
All right, Troy Mount Horeb. Always a pleasure, Troy. Thanks for holding. What say you?
Oh my God! First of all, Trigby, I got involved in union because of you. So
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
First time I've talked to you since then. So
Yep. That's awesome. Thank
I
you.
was at the rally last night. Thank you. I was at the rally last night, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, now granted,
In
the last
Milwaukee.
time
You're talking about in Milwaukee.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, in Milwaukee. The place was packed. Now, I've been to the NFC Championship game. I've been to the Eastern Conference Finals. I went to the World Series in '82, Game 4. This place was as loud as any of that. We couldn't hear the good part. We couldn't hear the good part of Tony's speech when they did the Wisconsin delegation. Yeah. I literally couldn't hear it because everybody was screaming so loud. It was just amazing. The place was completely full. There were a few boxes that they didn't fill up, but I guess there were people waiting outside. They could have brought them in. But the diversity of the crowd, the young people, the older, I'm 57. There were older people than I, a lot younger people than I, women, men, black, all different people.
Right.
It was just, I can't say enough about how amazed I was by the whole experience.
Well, I think, Troy, just the enthusiasm and excitement in your voice, and you're running through the NFC Championship game for the Packers. I mean, Bucks. I mean, to say that topped all that, Trigby. I think this is what you've been talking about and you've seen this in other campaigns in your career. It's kind of like lightning in a bottle, and you can't manufacture it.
No, you can't. And, the question is, one of the questions is, Harris has had such a good run in the polls over the last 30 days. Typically, you have your convention, you get a bounce from the convention. Trump got no bounce from his convention. Now, how much of that is how established Trump is? How much of that was the convention didn't give anything to the people that you'd need it to give to get a bounce? Didn't change perceptions. Or maybe it was all that was going on with Biden, right? Harris is going to have this convention. It's going to be a real question. How much of a bounce can she still get, given, she's gained 6 to 8 points in the polls? I actually think she might be able to sustain it just a little bit.
Wow.
Because
Incredible.
it's speaking to kind of what we call these Dobbs dads. I've talked about them before, democracy first moms. But Dobbs dads, really, who are sort of sitting there conflicted,
Yeah, really great. Troy, thanks for calling. Really appreciate your listenership as always. Glad you were down there and had a great time. 855-752 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Before we go to LA Tom, Mr. Zommers, I'd like to take this clip. I want to play from last night. This is David Plouffe, and of course, he ran Obama World. Now he is back in helping run Harris World. And he talked to Matt Smith from WISN TV Channel 12 in Milwaukee last night about why it was important to have Harris and Walz up in Milwaukee last night. Here's David Plouffe.
Why is she in Wisconsin inside Pfizer Forum Tuesday night? What's the significance of that in the midst of DNC?
Well, first of all, we only have 77 days left. So even though the convention's going on here, if you've got an opportunity to get to a battleground state as important as Wisconsin's going to be, you take it. Secondly, Trump delivered his convention address there. I think she'd like to contrast what she'd do as president with what Donald Trump said a few weeks ago in Milwaukee in that arena. But Wisconsin's going to be critical, as it always is. And so, the one thing that keeps me up at night is tomorrow there'll be 76 days left. Like, there's only so much time to get into battleground states and make your case to voters, and she's very focused on doing that in a direct way.
What is your biggest concern that you see in Wisconsin in terms of winning the state? As you know, 10, 20, 30,000 at best voters are going to decide that.
Well, that's what's the biggest concern. It's just going to be close.
Yeah.
So I think Kamala Harris has the enthusiasm required to build the kind of organization to win a close state. The Wisconsin State Party under Ben Wickler is a great organizing machine, so there's good apparatus there. The folks in that state have won a lot of close elections up and down the ballot over the last few years. So we're very confident in that. But in this election, Wisconsin's not going to be decided by more than a couple points. Unless Donald Trump really closes poorly, I still think Kamala Harris has some upside.
David Plouffe now running the Harris World, Trigby.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically saying what I'm saying, and I think that's because probably we look at, numbers that end up looking similar. But yeah, there is some opportunity for growth. That opportunity for growth is amongst sort of those right of center. They're probably currently voting for Baldwin. It's the Evers Johnson people. They're going to decide late. But yeah, they're sitting there. I think what I've seen so far, we've still got to see tonight. But honestly, tonight should be wheelhouse for those people. Right. Why? You got Walz on the stage, right?
And he was great in Milwaukee last night.
Yeah.
And the logistics last night, they was seamless between what happened here in Chicago and bringing out Harris and Walz on the stage in Milwaukee simultaneously and showing it here in Chicago.
Right.
And she's talking to two filled arenas simultaneously. That was brilliant.
Yeah, that actually was really well executed. The other thing that was well executed about it, which might seem small, that occurred, and then what happened?
Obama came out.
Right.
Right.
You don't want to be following the Obamas.
No,
That's like
no.
being a polka band from Pulaski going on after the Rolling Stones.
No offense to the great folks of Pulaski.
No offense to people in Pulaski, but that's what it's like.
No, that's a great analogy. Love it. 855-752-4842. Let's go out to Los Angeles, California. LA Tom, thanks for holding. What say you?
Hey, guys. First off, Todd, I heard you were down in Halstead last night. Is that right?
I was in my hotel room quietly watching by myself. Thank you very much. No Boys Town for Toddy.
Got it. No, I was going to say that I have a great commercial for you, Trigby. You could, since Donald Trump is talking about rapists and he's talking about people that kill people and all this kind of stuff, maybe do a commercial where you where he's talking about rapists and then have a mirror in front of him.
Right.
You probably can find a rapist pretty damn easy since he can just look himself in the mirror and see it.
You needed to put that request into Wilson yesterday.
I know,
That's a good idea, though.
I don't have that access to him, so I was wondering maybe you could pass that along to him.
I will pass it along. It's good.
Anything else, Tom?
I'm a joyful democracy warrior because I don't want Project 2025. I don't want someone knocking on my door in the middle of the night and disappearing me. And I know people may think that's hyperbolic, but it isn't. This is either Handmaid's Tale or the democracy that we have. And I would hope that people that really love their LGBTQ plus family members, brothers, sisters, friends, I really hope they think about this because it's very easy for them to call us gender traitors. And it's very easy for them to disappear us in the middle of the night if Donald Trump does become the authoritarian dictator that he wants to be. Besides the fact that women having the government tell a woman what to do with their body, which they've already started putting Project 2025 already into place in some states. And I just hope people wake up and they really don't let that happen.
L.A. Tom, thanks so much. Always appreciate the call. Trigby, we had Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the most poignant part of that, there was a lot of great stuff in it, but when she told the story of her kids who are half Latino,
Mm-hmm.
I have godsons who are half Latino. I have Latino people in my family, and they have felt the same thing that the last time Trump got in. And now again, if am I in danger of being rounded up for who I am and the way I look? That's very real for a large segment of Americans.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, when Trump came down the golden escalator and all of that sort of unfolded, right? For me, the leaving of the GOP was really, I started seeing the people that were on the opposite side of like McCain and I from Ukraine appearing. But another really defining moment for me was when my daughter in September came home from school and was asking me if her friend was going to be sent back to Mexico if Trump came back, and why was I a Republican and backing, Ula's in like second grade. And I said that to a very prominent Wisconsin person who was involved in Republican politics and ended up going to work for Trump. How do I answer that? Like, I'll start laying off Trump because this person had called me and said, you got to stop being so harsh on Trump. I said, I'll lay off when you can tell me how you answer that question. How do you answer that question?
Say?
They didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't really mean it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, but that's not answering my daughter's question, right?
Exactly.
I think she what's awesome about the lieutenant governor is she's like an average person who got really torqued off about something and said, I'm going to make a difference. That's inspirational.
And it really is inspirational. It really, really is. 855-752-4842. I believe is it Todd or Billy from the north side of Madison on the line? Is that correct, Todd? Go ahead.
That's me. It's Todd or Billy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you? What do you got for us?
Well, I'm not much of a student of political conventions, and so I don't know that much about the history of how they tend to go down. But, what I really wish I were seeing more of, I want to see Colin Allred. I want to see Lucas Coons. I want to see John Tester. The presidential election is a huge deal, but there's races up and down that are so important, and I just would love to see the convention elevating the voices of and creating some star power for some of these people in other races that we really need to win if we're actually going to make progress and enact new policies rather than just fighting a rearguard action by having a president that can only veto a Republican Congress and fight with a deeply conservative reactionary Supreme Court. So I just wish, I want to see those people and get people fired up about them.
Great call. Really appreciate it, Todd or Billy. Trigby, what about that? I mean, you go ahead.
Well, I mean, some conventions that there's more of that and some there's less, right? Like Barack Obama was a candidate for the U.S. Senate when he ended up giving the speech. There's not a red America, like we love a mighty God and the blue America and
the speech,
and there are plenty of gay people in red America.
Right.
Like it was the red or blue speech.
Yeah,
they're on the stage. It's just not prime time.
Yeah. We'll come back to talk more about that. Take more of your phone calls as well. We have Dr. Kristen Lyerly. If Brian Kelly can find her, he's on his way. They're on their way. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show live from Chicago, the Democratic National Convention on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Is it looking like they're going to be back soon? Okay, I see your shrug.
fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. We are here. We are live at the almost a Republican Democratic National Convention at the United Center. Here, many different angles. It's fantastic. You have cameras everywhere, the secret cameras of Civic Media. And look who's peeking in, the remarkable headhunter, Brian Kelly, who knows how to go out and get things done, has escorted Dr. Lyerly here to our very own table. Mr. Kelly, great job.
It was awesome. We had fun. It was really quick. Honestly, compared to everything, went out there, just said hi, went in, blam, done.
Well, thank you. We appreciate all your help getting her here.
I left my contraband here. That's fine.
Dr. Lyerly, Kristen Lyerly, that is, a great OBGYN doctor. She is a great person, and we are happy to have her back on the show. She is running for the congressional seat, the open congressional seat in the 8th Congressional District. The fabulous woman from Kaukauna, Dr. Lyerly, how are you?
Oh, my hometown.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Galloping Ghosts. And thanks for playing my my own personal playlist there to get us started
That
out
was
with.
Zommers. That was
Who
all
runs
Zommers.
the world?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Girls and women. At least they should.
That's what we're feeling like in northeastern Wisconsin. Do you know that we have more women running for the seats up there than men? In northeast Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really, really amazing.
Yeah.
Well, bring folks up to speed. You've been on our show before. You've been on your regular on Pat Kreitlow's for a long time. We know you're a great doctor. We know that you bring compassion and understanding to our airwaves, but also to this campaign. How's the campaign been going?
It's so good. We are having so much fun, and the enthusiasm is infectious. Everybody who's involved is there because they love it, not because they're obligated, not because they have to, but because they really love it. So we've got our team together. We're getting our ground game up and running. Our social media presence is fantastic, and the buy-in from people from around the country. We've had over 35,000 people pitch in to help our campaign. Talk about grassroots, Todd.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's just amazing.
I have a highly plugged in friend, Democrat from Marin County in San Francisco. And she called me the other day. I guess she's going out there in a week or two to knock doors with a group of them.
Yeah, this is a story
they're
that
flying in from Marin.
It resonates.
Right.
And you're right.
Which makes them like Eric Hovde.
He does speech.
Yeah. We had Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez here yesterday, and I'm just so impressed with her. She's fantastic. One of the things, like you, Dr. Lyerly, is that she talks about inclusivity, that she's not here just to represent Democrats, but Wisconsinites. She's a cheerleader. Like, our former governor, Tommy Thompson, back in the day, not so much now, but back in the day when he was a cheerleader for Wisconsin. You do the same thing. And that's what I love about your campaign, the positivity and the inclusivity.
I'm maybe more of a mascot, but yeah, I'd go there. Yeah, it is. It's about that. Well, I mean, we all have been Republicans in the past. Not, I wasn't a card-carrying Republican, but I definitely voted that way. It is not about Democrats and Republicans. It's about shared values, and that's what we're hearing when we're having conversations in the district. People are not thinking about partisanship. They're thinking about, how am I going to afford to put food on my table? How am I going to afford to retire? Am I going to be able to get that education for myself or my kids so that they can have a brighter future? People are really worn down, and we owe them better. As leaders, we owe them better.
Trigvi and I have been traveling around the state. We were in Green Bay, of course, a couple of times this year, but traveled all over the state. And I spent a lot of time in Shawano because my dad and stepmom live there, so I get a lot of TV and stuff from the 8th. And one of the guys who lost, Roger Roth, I mean, the ads he was running, you'd think that Green Bay was on the border of Mexico. And what you just said about education and healthcare, Trigvi, that's what we're hearing from real people
all the time,
all over the state. And it's so refreshing to have a candidate like you that reflects the values and what's on the minds of people in Wisconsin.
But here's the other thing. Contrast that to what her opponent's doing, what Eric Hovde is trying to do to Baldwin, right? In all those cases, they are appealing to solely to the base sort of campaign, right?
Right.
Like there's nothing in what they're running on except for trying to throw grievance to these people, and say, oh, it's the sucking on lemons and grapefruit all day long.
It's fear and divisiveness
and I
instead
think
of
people
joy and
are
hope.
fed up. Yeah, I think they're fed up with it.
Oh, and we've heard it from Sarah Rodriguez. We heard it from Michelle Obama last night.
Oh, my
in
gosh.
particular, right?
Yes.
It's this bringing people in, making something larger than ourselves,
Mhm.
not making it about one person.
Mhm.
And tell folks what you're hearing as you knock on doors in Shawano and Green Bay and Appleton.
We're hearing exactly that. We're hearing that people have felt isolated. They've felt left behind. In Northeast Wisconsin, in the last cycle 2 years ago, a third of those seats went unchallenged. And that means that the representatives there didn't have to represent. They didn't have to work for their jobs. So these people haven't had any contact with their legislators in a long time. For some people, more than a decade. So as we are getting out and knocking on doors and talking to people, they feel encouraged. They feel heard. That's what they want more than anything. And I got to say, the number one issue that I hear from them is they're tired of politics. They don't trust the leaders. They look at this ineffective Congress, the least effective Congress in decades. They look at our ineffective state legislature. They know that there's money for PFAS relief in Peshtigo, but they know it's not being spent to help them, and they need it.
Right.
They need it. So let's get the government working for the people again.
Well, a little over about a minute and a half left. Give us your pitch to your people that you like to vote for you in the 8th Congressional District when you talk to them.
Oh, man. We talk a lot about reproductive rights. I'm an OBGYN doctor, and everybody's got a story about reproductive rights, whether they're young or old, men or women. It has affected all of our lives. But, we talk about the economy. We talk about immigration. That's something on the top of people's minds. We address issues that people are concerned about. And we know that they want hope. They want connection. That's what we are bringing. We're inviting them all in. Like you said, inclusivity. I've done this my whole life. I mean, I'm the mom of 4 boys. I'm like, come on, bring your friends over. Let's have a party in the backyard.
Right.
It's all about that sense of community, the people in your life, your family. It's about your people.
If people want to get involved, how do they get a hold of you?
KristenForWisconsin.com. That's our website, and I'm on all the socials as well.
KristenForWisconsin.com and all the socials. See, Trigby, whether it's Sarah Rodriguez or Kristen Lyerly, you just feel better after sitting and talking with them.
They have a lot of, the contrast in candidates is, it just in terms of, it makes me sad as a former Republican to say that, because people who used to run as Republicans, and I see this all around the country, are now running as Democrats.
But it gives me hope to have candidates like Dr. Lyerly here
Yes,
who are bringing that
100%.
excitement.
Yeah, I don't mean that as a slight on the Democrats.
We can fix it.
Yeah,
Let's fix
we
it, guys.
can fix it.
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Dr. Lyerly. We appreciate you.
Thanks, fellas.
Stay tuned. Hour 2 is straight ahead. We are live from Chicago, the the convention here in Chicago. On the other side, Billy Mack is here in the house. We'll talk to hockey as well.
Madison's home for Matt Nair on air.
Jane, Matt Nair, and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, Jane is on vacation, but I, Greg Bach, am your host, and I'm going to be talking to J.R. Radcliffe about all things sports and it's weather and wine with meteorologist
In case you didn't see my message, please say hi for me to Dr. Lyerly.
Mornings at 11.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a colonial with high ceilings, hardwood floors, and a peaceful neighborhood. And you found it. Now, every Saturday at 6 a.m., you get to wake to the sound of your neighbor's leaf blower. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us. You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. More protests expected in Chicago as the Democratic National Convention gears up for day 3. Police say they made over 70 arrests last night. Tonight, Kamala Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, delivers a speech. Donald Trump and running mate J.D. Vance are in North Carolina campaigning. The outdoor rally is the first since July's assassination attempt. The Secret Service adding bulletproof glass to surround the podium. ABC's Catherine Folders has more.
These glass panels will have to be stored at different locations
locations across the country. So when Trump schedules a rally, those panels can then be put into a truck and literally driven to the rally site so they can set that up at every location. At least that's what I'm told by my sources. So you'll see these added measures starting today, and I'm sure they will obviously continue through the election.
Crews off the coast of Sicily have located 4 bodies of those missing after a super yacht sank Monday during a storm. 2 others are still unaccounted for. This is ABC News.
This news report is sponsored by Wisconsin Capital Management LLC, serving their clients for 40 years. Visit wiscap.com.
Media News. I'm Terry Bell at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The convention's in Chicago, but Kamala Harris accepted her party's nomination for president last night in Milwaukee.
We are so honored to be your nominees. This is a people-powered campaign, and together we will chart a new way forward.
15,000 people packed Fiserv Forum to hear from Harris and running mate Tim Walz. The national group called the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee promises to spend about $50,000 to help Democrats win state house races in Wisconsin. Assembly Democratic Minority Leader Greta Neubauer tells the Journal Sentinel that Joe Sheehan in Sheboygan and Yi Lang-zhang in Wausau are 2 to watch. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. The Madison Common Council approved a referendum to go on the ballot in November. When you vote November 5th, you'll be asked to approve a $22 million referendum to fund city operations. Madison's facing a $22 million budget deficit in 2025. Even if it's approved, leaders will still have to dip into Madison's reserve fund. And on top of that, voters will also be weighing in on a big referendum for the Madison Metropolitan School District. Meanwhile, the city of Monona is also going to referendum. City leaders say they need to raise pay to retain staff. In November, Monona residents will be asked to approve $3 million. For the average house worth $417,000, homeowners would pay about $700 more per year. All municipalities across Wisconsin face revenue limits passed by the legislature in 2005. Officials in both Madison and Monona say those limits and increasing inflation have led to their budget problems. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, and this is WMDX News.
The Packers prepare for the Ravens. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Packers' final week of training camp ends with a joint practice session against the Ravens this Thursday, and then their final preseason game Saturday at noon. Does the team need to bounce back after their struggles in Denver? Wide receiver Jaden Reed.
Knowing that was a top defense in the league last year, just really seeing how we match up and just executing well and, just giving all the effort we got no matter what. So that's our mindset and goal.
In golf, the Wisconsin State Open continues today in Minocqua. Round 2 ending in a 3-way tie. Max Lyons, Adam Miller, Sam Weatherhead atop the leaderboard. Baseball, the Brewers won their 6th in a row last night with a 3-2 win over the Cards in St. Louis. Frankie Montas allowing only 1 hit in 7 innings, but the unsung hero was catcher William Contreras. Pat Murphy.
William, you got to give William a lot of credit. He had a great game tonight. Both sides of the ball. He was great. He really got Frankie going too. I thought he called a great game.
That's Brewers manager Pat Murphy. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
92.7 WMDX Weather is brought to you by Water Lantern Festival in Madison. This weekend, August 24th at Warner Park, 5 to 9 p.m. WaterLanternFestival.com.
Super sunny today with comfortable high temperatures smacking the mid-70s. As we stay clear tonight with light winds, we fall crisp. But we warm a little bit more with high temperatures tomorrow cranked up to the upper 70s. Enjoy the beautiful weather. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. It's 70 degrees at our studios.
Are you looking for an unforgettable experience that's all about joy, connection, and making memories? Look no further than the Water Lantern Festival. Join thousands of fellow revelers at Warner Park, 2930 North Sherman Avenue in Madison on August 24th, where the magic begins at 5 p.m. Friends, family, and even strangers coming together under the stars to witness breathtaking spectacles of floating lanterns. Eat, drink, and celebrate, and forge genuine connections with others. Be part of this incredible experience.
Live on location, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh along with Trigby Olson of the Lincoln Project. It is Wednesday, the 21st of August, 2024. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. And Mr. Zommers, it is
Hump Day.
There you go. The camel got out of the bathroom. There's no reverb. No reverb in hour two. Very good. Glad to have you all along with us. Many thanks to Pat Kreitlow, to Kelly Robinson, and to Dr. Kristen Lyerly for joining us in hour number one. Big show here in hour two. At the bottom of the hour, or ish, John Nichols, the progressive, longtime Wisconsinite, knows Wisconsin politics on the Democratic side very well. Coming up after the bottom of the hour break. But joining Trigby Olson and I right now at the table, so happy to have him here. Known him for a long time. He was at one time the youngest chief of staff to the governor in the country under Tommy George Thompson. Went on to be a great secretary of commerce from the state of Wisconsin. Has a very successful lobbying group. And is a fantastic hockey player and owner. We'll get to that in a minute. Bill McCoshen, welcome to the table.
Great to be with you guys.
It's great to be here. We've been wanting to have you on together for a while.
If someone took a picture of us 25 years ago and said, you three guys will be at the DNC, we would all said, nah.
No, absolutely, you're right. We were talking about that. This is your first DNC proper, right?
Yeah,
mine too.
My 10th convention and the first.
I've been to 5 RNCs. This is the first DNC.
I never got to an RNC. I've been to a lot of state Republican conventions, but no, I've never been to a Democratic one either. But here we are, three Republican, or at least 2 former Republicans, and one that still hanging in there, right?
Yeah,
on the Republican side. And as Seinfeld once said, "There's nothing
Are you
wrong
officially
with that."
former, both of you?
Yeah,
I still consider. So people ask me that all the time. I mean, I guess I guess I was a Republican, but whatever. I didn't turn in my card because I never had one. But I still consider myself a conservative. I just don't consider myself part of MAGA or
there are a lot
the
of people like
Republican
that.
Party, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Sean Hannity. I know you probably don't watch him anymore, or maybe never did, but he calls himself a conservative, not a Republican.
Back during the Bush era, of course. But there was an evolution there too. But I just think, there are a lot of people and particularly I think in Wisconsin, right? All my buddies, one of the things Bill and I have always had in common that I've always liked about you, Bill, is the fact that your high school buddies are your best buddies in the world. The guys you played hockey with in Superior and beat up on guys from River Falls. But and mine are the ones who are getting beat up on by guys from Superior.
They are still my best buddies.
Yeah,
talked to one of them on my way in, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Let's talk, Bill, a little bit. And I so appreciate you coming on because, Trigby will tell you, not a lot of Republicans like to come on the show anymore. And I'm not sure. We've invited Shimmy on 100 times.
They should come
We've
on.
invited
They should
Walker
come
on.
on. They should come on, right?
Yeah.
Even if only 10% of the audience agrees with what they say, maybe you make that 12% or 13%, right? I mean, every little bit helps. If you're not fighting for your message with the broader audience, what's the point, right?
I totally agree, and that's why you've been so good at your
100%.
jobs over the years. And you're not here on the audience to understand. Bill's not here to speak for the entire Republican Party or anything like that. But did you watch Ted Lasso? Are you a Ted Lasso fan?
I've never seen it.
Really?
I certainly know what it is, but
I
I've
didn't
never
see it
seen
when
it.
it first started. My sister had to get me into it, and about a year and a half ago, I watched all 3 seasons. I binge watched it, and now I can't get enough. But for those who don't know, it's about a guy, an American that goes overseas to the UK to take and run he was a college football coach at Wichita State, and then goes over to run a soccer team. And he's never played soccer. And Ted Lasso was the title character. One of my favorite scenes, and those Lasso fans will know this, is when he's playing darts with kind of the villain of the series. He challenges him to this dart match, and ownership of the team is on the line, and thinks he could beat the Englander thinks he could beat Ted Lasso, and Lasso just whips him. And he says, if you had been more curious, you might have asked me about my childhood and know that I played darts every Sunday with my dad until I was 16 when he passed away. And he said, it taught me a lesson. Don't be judgmental. Be curious.
Yeah.
And so that's
curious is a very good thing in politics.
Isn't that great?
100%.
It was one of the things I love best about Tommy Thompson is he was always curious. And I think that makes for not only a good politician but a good leader, right? That means you're listening. You're getting different perspectives. And Tommy always encouraged sort of free flow of information or debate in his presence, right? He thought that was the best way to do it. And Jim Clouser was the same way. And I think it was one of the reasons why Tommy was so successful.
And we've talked about this. For those that don't know Bill's background, I mean, you were the youngest chief of staff to any governor in the country at one time.
Still hold that record.
Still hold that record. How old were you?
27 and 29 when I was cabinet secretary. Also the youngest in Wisconsin. Wow. Those will be my little asterisks on my obituary.
But, I mean, you did a great job of both of them. And, I mean, in particular, the commerce secretary, Bill would come around to places like Yuba, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
The smallest incorporated.
Potosi. Yeah.
And you would, I mean,
Belmont.
Don't take offense to this. You were kind of the Pete Buttigieg of the Thompson administration because you were young, you were smart, you were articulate, and you got things done and you developed infrastructure.
So you know the backstory, Todd, but for the listeners that don't, when Tommy offered me that job, I was 29 years old, and it's a Senate confirmed position, and I said, "Are you sure about this? I don't really have any business background." And he said, "I am. I have confidence in you." And honestly, that's what it took. And I ended up getting confirmed 30-3. Two of the three guys who voted against me ended up serving time. True story.
Wow. Was it Gary George and Qual?
No,
the two?
Qual and Brian Burke. Yeah. The other one was Lynn Edelman, who's now a federal judge.
Right.
So
and was generally a really good guy.
Yeah. When I took the job, though, we had a discussion about economy in 1994 and 5. I took it in December of 94. It was doing pretty well in Wisconsin. And I said, I'll do it if we can focus on areas that haven't done so well so far. And Southwest Wisconsin was at the top of the list. So, man, I spent a lot of time in Southwest Wisconsin with your former boss, Dale Schultz, and with you. And it was phenomenal. And it was easy, right? Because people just wanted to be heard. They wanted to be seen. And, we brought a couple nickels out every now and then, to this community or that community with some seabed money or CDBG money, and it all worked great. And that was the fun part about Thompson is he was a proactive governor in a very good way, right?
Tell people the story, or at least a little bit of that don't know this, because and the Tommy Thompson that was governor was a transformational leader, in my opinion. And one of the things is one of the first things he did is reach across the aisle and got the Democratic majority leader in Tim Cullen to join his cabinet. And we were in Richland Center. We had Mark Cupp, and through Tommy's work and through, again, Spencer Black, one of the most liberal Democrats in the state assembly and legislature, and Dale Schultz, at that time one of the most conservative. And Tommy said, "I'm not going out there and putting my neck on the line unless you guys are going to get this done." And they did. And 35 years later, it's one of the largest conservation projects in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That is the Republican Party bill that I was proud to be a part of.
Yeah, and that's the one I grew up in, and that's how I learned. You know this because you worked in the legislature, as did you, Trigby, but the Democrats had the majority for 7 of Tommy's first 8 years.
Yeah.
He didn't get the state Senate until 1993.
He kept appointing people cabinet secretaries
until we got there.
Bob Wood and I would get sent out to different places.
Until
I lived in a shack on Lake Wissota when we finally won with Zine with Bill Skews, all of us.
But it taught us a lesson. If we wanted to enact his agenda, we had to get it through a Democratic legislature, right? And those are unbelievable life lessons. It meant you had to form relationships with people on the other side. It meant you had to have discussions with people on the other side. And from time to time, it meant compromise. You didn't get everything you wanted. But we were able to move the needle and advance his agenda in a very big way under Democratic control of the legislature. Those are great life lessons.
Occasionally, it led to, I'm not going to, when in the next election, I won't attack you and you don't attack me.
Right.
And you don't see that.
It was pretty rare for Tommy to go in, parachute into a Democratic incumbent's district and trash them. That just wasn't how he operated.
No. And I want to start getting this bill a little bit. You nailed it. It meant to get things done that you kind of had to take 3/4 of a loaf,
right?
And people would pound the hell out of each other on the floor, and then go walk down to the avenue, and Ellis was buying drinks, former Senate Majority Leader, and say, "You SOB, you really got me. What do you want to drink?"
Yeah.
What has happened, in your opinion? You know politics better than anybody I know in this state, and I'm not trying to point fingers at either side, but just in general, what has happened to that politics in Wisconsin?
It's too impersonal. We thrive on clicks and social media and things like that. We don't have conversations. I mean, if we wanted to get a deal done, we knew where the Democrats went that night. We knew where the Republicans went that night. And so that meant we might work 14 or 16 hours that day, but we were going to have those conversations. We were going to have them in a toned down way. We were going to have them in a social way, and we were going to find a way to get to yes. And I actually won a couple bets with Tommy. He didn't think I could convince Larry Swoboda to leave the legislature. For your viewers that don't remember Larry, he was I would say he was a conservative Democrat serving in the 1st Assembly District, which is the thumb of Wisconsin, Door County. He'd been in the legislature 20 years, and this was actually how Tommy and I connected. In 1988, Tommy had come up and worked to help a guy named Bob Papke run against Swoboda. He was up there almost every week. I was working for the Republican Party, living in the Bay Motel on 9th and Military, which is still there. The Bay Family Restaurant, I think, is the best breakfast in Green Bay if you get a chance to go there. It's still there. And the Friday before the election, Tommy was asking how these candidates were going to do, and I said, Papke's going to lose. I had no polling. I don't know.
Right. Just your gut.
It was my gut. I was up there all the time. And he said, why? And I said, well, Larry's pro-life. It's very pro-life up here. There's no reason to vote against him, right? You got to give voters a reason to go against an incumbent. They didn't have one. And on election night, Larry won 60-40. Tommy hired me that night.
I bet he did.
So
I bet he did.
It just goes to show, if you can connect with people, it doesn't really matter what your party is. You're going to be there for a while unless you make a pretty big mistake. Beating an incumbent's a tough deal.
Yeah.
In the United States of America, only one statewide Republican lost in 2022, and it was the governor of Nevada. That's it.
Wow.
So, incumbents have a pretty high retention rate. You got to run a smart campaign. You got to run a shrewd campaign. And you got to give voters a reason to change their mind, right? If you've been accustomed to voting for Tammy Baldwin for a couple cycles, you're probably going to stay with that custom unless there's a real good reason to change your mind, right? Yeah. And to give her a little bit of credit, since we're at the DNC, in 2012, Tommy was still the most popular Republican in Wisconsin. He was the favorite to win that Senate seat. Immediately following it was a pretty contentious primary. He beat Jeff Fitzgerald and Hovde. She said he's not who he used to be, and she burned that in.
It was a magic line.
Yeah.
It worked. Come on back. We're going to talk a little hockey and what's happening here at the DNC and more with Bill McCoshen, Trygve Olsons, the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Wherever it may lead, and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, where it is now 20 minutes after the hour of 1 o'clock. We're pursuing truth down here in the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, and we're absolutely having fun doing it. I feel like this is the old boys network getting back here. All we need is a couple of beers. Exactly. And we're here with Trygve Olsons.
The last time we were together was at a bar. It was for the debates.
Yeah,
that's
right.
In Milwaukee.
Down at Whitetail Bar in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
It was great. Here with Trygve Trygve Olson, former Republican like myself, now a senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, and Mr. Bill McCoshen, a current Republican, former Secretary of Commerce under Tommy Thompson, Chief of Staff for Tommy as well, a successful lobbyist and owner of the Janesville Jets. Going to get to that in a minute, Bill.
Awesome.
I want to, and again, you're not here to speak on behalf of your former boss any more than I am or anything else. I don't mean it in this in a particular way. But again, under the auspices of trying to be curious and not judgmental, we have a lot of people that call this show and ask this question because they know I'm a former Republican. They know what Trygve is.
And a lot of them like Tommy.
And to your point earlier, I personally don't think the only things that I have probably changed or matured my position on from when I was an active Republican is I consider myself more pro-choice than I do pro-life. I think it should be a certain window, but I have nieces, and I just simply feel that God forbid that they be raped or things like that, that they deserve that right to over their own body. So I've changed from pro-life to pro-choice. And as still a bad pheasant hunter and turkey hunter, I certainly believe in the Second Amendment, but I also think there should be reasonable laws to protect people like red flag laws and the like. That's just me. Help us understand, through someone who's lived this, when Donald Trump says things this week, such as, quote, "we're a failed nation." Isn't that a beautiful phrase, unquote? Paul Ryan, former Speaker of the House, one of Republicans' favorite son of Wisconsin, Republican-wise, has called Trump a narcissist, an autocratic leader, and is, quote, not capable to be the next president of the United States, unquote. How is it, and I'm not talking about one person, but someone who says we're a failed country, a failed nation, that's a beautiful phrase. Tommy Thompson, back in his gubernatorial days, would have never uttered that. Donald Trump wouldn't make a pimple on Tommy Thompson's political ass. So why is it that Republicans still support that guy?
I would say he's got an amazing following. I think when we got together in Milwaukee last year, I was still hopeful that someone more conservative was going to get through the primary process. I consider myself more conservative than, quote unquote, the party today. Right. That isn't what happened. I mean, he's got an incredible following that doesn't budge. It doesn't matter what he says or does. That following doesn't move. But I'm here to tell you that's not big enough to win either. In order to win in the next 75 days, he has to get some of the independents to come his way.
But he's never going to do what he needs to do that.
And that's the challenge on the Republican side. Can he be disciplined enough to do what it takes? And honestly, talking about that it isn't winning. We're talking about the economy, talking about immigration. Those are winning messages for Republican. Every national poll shows that today. Those are things he needs to be talking about. I don't care about crowd size. I don't care about Kamala's last night in Milwaukee. I don't care about his in Atlanta. It doesn't matter to me because you're singing to the choir. But as political operatives, we would all say, okay, yeah, you want to do some GOTV and fire up the base at the end, the final 10 days. You don't need to do that in September. I'm for more strategic hits like he did yesterday in Michigan. I think he did a pretty good job at that.
But I'm not talking about, I agree with you. The 35% or whatever it is, the Trump people, they're never going to move. They're with him till the end. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What people call in and ask me, Todd, help us understand as a former Republican, why do people like Tommy Thompson? Why do people like Rob Coles? I mean, he's retiring now. And Rob's a wonderful guy, and I consider him a friend. Why is it that, Robin Voss, who you may disagree with politically, he's not a political idiot. Why do people continue to politically genuflect to this guy who is antithetical to the Republican Party that you and I and Trygve grew up in?
Well, he's certainly got a big stick, right? He doesn't walk softly,
That's not what Stormy Daniels said,
he
but anyway.
carries a big stick, and evidenced by your prior guest was Kristen Lyerly. Well, the person that won that primary was endorsed by Donald Trump. Now, Roger Roth tried to run as being sort of pseudo-endorsed by Trump. Didn't work.
Those ads were over the top. Those immigration
weird guy?
ads. Yeah, no, Roger Roth.
You're thinking of Andre Jacques with the boxer?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the guy who won was
Tony Weed.
Right. Weed,
Tony
not
Weed.
Weird.
Weed actually got the endorsement from Trump.
Yeah, he did right away.
And Roth,
right away.
Roth tried to steal it. As
And
Bill
don't
said.
forget,
And he got Don
Michaels
Jr.
got the endorsement in the 22 primary against
Right, he
Clayfish.
did.
She was largely considered the heavy favorite in that race. Michaels got in spent about $13 million of his own money and got the Trump endorsement and ended up winning the primary by 5 points.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what makes Wisconsin great, because this is one of the, we want to do this in all seriousness. We tried to do it the last time, it didn't work out. Beyond your political career, Bill, you've gotten involved in something that brings people together. And that's what I love. Talk about the Janesville Jets.
Well, I'm going to steal some line that you used in your interview with Dr. Lyerly, and that is, my wife and I found something that's bigger than ourselves. And that is giving back to young, dedicated athletes who want to play college hockey, and they're willing to commit and come from all over the world to Janesville, Wisconsin. This will be our 16th year in the North American Hockey League. If you drive down Milton Avenue in Janesville today, you are now going to see walls going up for the new Woodman Center, which will be a 2-sheet arena and a local convention center like nothing in Rock County. It's going to attract not only sports tourism, but weekday traffic for conventions, small to mid-sized conventions. It's going to produce $22 million annually into the local community for a $48 million facility. For us, we did this 16 years ago because we had a lot of success. We had good fortune in our life, and we wanted to give back. And this was something I knew. I had been a hockey player myself, was fortunate to be on a couple state championship teams, and wanted to give kids an opportunity. And this has been a tremendous. It's never been great financially, but for us personally, watching the joy of these kids get those college scholarships, some of whom have gone on to play in the NHL, it's in little old Janesville, Wisconsin. It is. We want to have you guys down, do one of your on the road. We'll either bring you to the Whiskey Ranch, which is one of my favorite places.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Like to do that for pregame, or Havana Coffee's another good one, or the Citrus Cafe. All of my players, regardless of where they come from, and many are from Europe or Canada or across this country, love Citrus Cafe. So that's their favorite breakfast place in Janesville. So depending on what time of day you guys come, we'll find the right spot, and I'm sure you got quite a few listeners in Rock County.
Well, it's one of the things we hear going around the state is that people they love it. The most interaction engagement we get is when we do stories like this, things that bring people together.
100%. Yeah. And think about how good it is for Janesville, right? Like those kids live with billets, I assume.
Yeah, they do.
It's bringing kids from all over the world. Like I know at one point you had, I think it was a Belarusian kid or a Russian kid, somewhere from that part of the world. I forget where it was from, but I was like, that's a place I've been. How good is it?
We're up against the clock, my friend. I want to make sure people want to get involved in Janesville Jets. If you got kids that want to play, how do they get a hold of you?
www.janesvillejets.com.
Easy enough. www.janesvillejets.com.
Thanks
Bill
for the time.
McCoshen, you're one of the best. We appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll be back on the other side with Mr. John Nichols, also one of the best from the Democratic side. We are live here from Chicago at the Chicago's United Center. I had a moment. Sorry about that. It's the Mad Cow. We'll come back here in a minute. It's the Civic Media Radio Network.
2.7 FM, home of the John and Gordy Show.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The convention's in Chicago, but Kamala Harris accepted her party's nomination for president last night in Milwaukee.
We are so honored to be your nominees. This is a people-powered campaign, and together we will chart a new way forward.
15,000 people packed Fiserv Forum to hear from Harris and running mate Tim Walz. The national group called the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee promises to spend about $50,000 to help Democrats win state house races in Wisconsin. Assembly Democratic Minority Leader Greta Neubauer tells the Journal Sentinel that Joe Sheehan in Sheboygan and Yi Lang-Zhang in Wausau are two to watch. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Secondhand shoppers, you'll love this. Madison is getting a Goodwill outlet. Instead of buying each item from the rack at its individual price, at a Goodwill outlet, you pay by the pound. The new location will be on Tradesman Drive near the Ho Chunk Casino. It'll have the outlet, a warehouse, and space to run their e-commerce outfit. It's set to open August 28th. And last night was the first UW volleyball match with alcohol available as the Badgers took on Bradley in an exhibition, and it seems to be a hit. According to reporting from the Wisconsin State Journal, there were only a few options available to fans, but that didn't stop them. Neither did the prices. A beer or canned cocktail cost about $12. Chancellor Jennifer Mnookin said it was important to put safeguards in place. People who appear under 40 have to scan their ID, and no one can buy more than 2 drinks at a time. Next, it's Camp Randall's turn to start offering alcohol. Fans will be able to buy booze at the Badgers game August 30th. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, and this is WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Well, if you've already spent 3 hours in the theater watching the first installment of Kevin Costner's Horizon American Saga Chapter 1, hoping to see the next 3 hours, Horizon An American Saga Chapter 2, in theaters, you can't, because it was pulled due to low interest. The title doesn't help. But fear not, Costner fans. Chapter 2 premieres on Max Friday, August 23rd. Fearless comedian Eric Andre says he was racially profiled at the Melbourne airport in Australia. The star of his own show, The Eric Andre Show, and the film Bad Trip, was in Australia for a gig when he says he was pulled out of the security line to be sniffed by the dogs. He said this is not the first time it's happened and currently has a lawsuit pending against the airport in Atlanta for the same type of treatment. Those of you who are fans, I know what you're thinking, but Andre was fully clothed when the incident happened. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 7 to 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
This is your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
Super sunny today with comfortable high temperatures smacking the mid-70s. As we stay clear tonight with light winds, we fall crisp. But we warm a little bit more with high temperatures tomorrow cranked up to the upper 70s. Enjoy the beautiful weather. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, it's 71 degrees.
Introducing the new Sushi Lover Madison. Indulge in all-you-can-eat sushi or hibachi at an amazing price. Now open at West Town Mall for lunch or dinner. Experience stunning decor with a beautiful water fountain, captivating oriental artwork, and a welcoming atmosphere. Their skilled chefs create each sushi roll fresh and made to order. Visit today at 72 West Town Mall and satisfy your cravings. For menus and a full list of locations, visit sushiloverwi.com.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Remember last summer when we had the chance to find each other, start making romance, but it didn't come off cause you found another without one hand of a clock. What good is the other? And I can't find.
Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show, live on location from the Democratic National Convention in good old United Center, Chicago, Illinois. Along with Trivia Olson of the Lincoln Project. Happy to have you along. Mr. Zomer is back at the world headquarters. What did you dial up for us there to come back on with?
By request from Brian Kelly, Riding in My Car by NRBQ, another Chicago band.
Well, he deserves a request because he got his Dr. Lyerly in the gate, and also he's an adopted Chicago native here who helps us navigate the city.
Heck yeah, it was totally fun, and I love that band, NRBQ. I got into them like they were a long-time band. I got into them a couple years ago from Len Casper, the Cubs, when he was a Cubs broadcaster. He said, someone asked him, "What do you listen to lately?" He goes, "I'm into NRBQ." I'm like, the heck is that? I listened to it and I'm like, this is fantastic.
Look at that. See, a little Chicago native music. We appreciate it, Mr. Kelly. Appreciate it, Mr. Zommers. Joining us at the table now, and by the way, thanks so much for Bill McCoshen for being here. Joining us now, another wonderful guest here at the table, John Nichols. He is with The Nation, of course, the Cap Times, the Progressive. He is an author and all-around swell guy, as we say back in Southwest Wisconsin. John Nichols, welcome back to the show. We appreciate it. One cleanup on Todd's part. I said from the Democratic perspective, and I appreciate you clarifying. You're not necessarily here from a Democratic perspective, although you have a history of supporting Democrats.
Absolutely.
Is that fair to say?
The Cap Times was founded as a Republican paper. And, of course, in those days, the Democratic Party was a right-wing party that was full of segregationists, right? In fact, you could pretty much say that many of the current criticisms of the Republican Party could have been lodged at the Democratic Party. Machine politics, et cetera, and stuff like that. And truthfully, Cap Times, even The Nation, which is a very left-wing publication, found Republicans that it could say very good things about for a long time. The moment we're in, right, is not a unique moment in American history. It happens. Political parties go through transition. They go different places. I always remind people in 1988 that Michael Dukakis carried West Virginia, lost California. Right?
Wow, yeah.
So when you
forget.
Yeah, you start to put it together. And so the Republican Party has changed a great deal. The Democratic Party has changed a great deal. I think the Democratic Party is, at this point, why it's fascinating, why this convention's fascinating, is the Democratic Party is actually going through a major change right now. This is a fundamental change. Huge. And most media misses it because most media isn't ideological, and that's a big problem. I love ideology. I think it's fantastic. I like libertarians. I like Greens. I like the whole bit because America is an ideological country. One of the biggest lies is this fantasy of we're all in the middle or we're all blah, blah, blah. Most boring thing in the world. It makes us sound like a pathetic, unthinking, useless bunch of people.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just not true. I've never been in a bar where somebody's like, oh, I really don't care that much.
Who wins the game?
I want
now?
everything to be boring. Boy, I hate it when these politicians say interesting things. No, it's not. It's a lie that politicians and political class tells themselves. America actually does like things. But what the problem is, that corporations, by and large, won't let you say things, right? It's because the money in politics is a real issue. And so what you're seeing at this Democratic convention is a fascinating thing. It's the most pro-union convention in American history. Well, by a mile. The previous winner on that was Abe Lincoln in 1860. And Lincoln, of course, was a very left-wing supporter of trade unions. In fact, even in 1860, went and campaigned with the shoe workers and the mill workers of Connecticut and Massachusetts, saying he wanted to stand up for their right to strike, right? I mean, it's the predecessor to Joe Biden. But you're actually seeing it there. That's a big deal. Why? Because when a political party actually embraces its base, when it actually says, you know what, we're not going to use you, we actually like you, right? That's a transformational moment. Now, interestingly enough, the Republican Party went through a similar moment, starting 76 into the early 80s, where they embraced their pro-life, their anti-abortion base. And as they did that, they transformed politics, right? Pennsylvania in those days used to elect anti-choice governors, senators, all sorts of folks. The shift came because the Republicans embraced their base. At this convention, you are seeing Democrats begin to embrace their base in some fundamental ways, not as they would at the level of if you had a Bernie Sanders or somebody, but a big deal. And if they do, they will win overwhelmingly, right?
Help us understand, John Nichols, because I don't disagree with what you just said, obviously, but I also, and Trigby and I talked about it a little bit.
Sure.
We had Sarah Rodriguez, a great lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, on yesterday, who talked about inclusivity. Dr. Lyerly here, a great candidate for Democrats, I think, in the 8th, talking the same way. You had Michelle Obama, who I thought gave the best speech of the night last night, very subtly telling Democrats, don't Goldilocks this. In other words, don't think you have to get everything to be on board. I think there's the Big Ten concept here, if anything. More so than the Republican convention, where it's a monolith where it's all hail Trump.
See, Ronald Reagan was a political genius, right? Very underrated. He read political journals of the left and right constantly. His aides hated it because he was constantly cutting out articles and saying, let's do something on this. We don't have much of that anymore. Most of our political leaders are so whipsawed by, consultants and stuff like that, they don't think for themselves. Ronald Reagan was, of course, the pioneer of the Big Tent, right? That was something that came out of him because he was considered so right-wing that he would scare people away. So no, we have to Big Tent. So he had Chuck Mathias, who was as liberal as any Democrat within his Republican thing. But here's the interesting thing. Ronald Reagan doesn't say, let's do a Big Tent and be boring and stand for nothing, right? He said, let's do a Big Tent, invite a lot of people in here, show them what we're for, show them that it's great, and we'll win. Yeah. And the same was true with Franklin Roosevelt, right? Franklin Roosevelt had a huge tent and won the biggest landslide victories in American history. The most left-wing Democratic candidates always win the biggest, and often the most right-wing Republican candidates, because America actually likes it when you stand for something. I'll give you a good example, right? Bill Clinton, you're going to hear him tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, and he'll speak.
Nichols rolls his eyes for those not watching the stream.
Bill Clinton is a corporate Democrat from day one, right? But you want to know the thing about Bill Clinton?
What's that?
Never got 50% of the vote.
Yeah, that's true.
Perot pulled it off and pulled enough off in both ones. Never crossed 50%. Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, we got to get back to the Clinton kind of stuff. Well, yeah, if you want to lose, absolutely. But if you want to win an election, you might want to look at somebody who actually got a lot of votes, right?
855-752-4842, 855-752-4842 if you want to call in and talk to John Nichols or Trivials and Trivia.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with some of what John said.
Of course you're not going to agree with me. You're not going to agree with me.
I disagree with
That's the beautiful part of conversation.
No, of course.
I know, that is the best part.
You're a transplant from the Republican Party.
We just had McCosh in here, and I'm channeling my inner Bill. Well, we did win every single county, including Milwaukee, by being, working with everyone, not by running as a far right. Tommy Thompson.
Do you think? Oh, but Tommy Thompson, social issues, was very, very conservative, and proud of it. Tommy Thompson expanded prisons at a level that was ridiculous. He now apologizes for it. Tommy Thompson did a lot of the right wing stuff. But here's the interesting thing: how did he get more votes? He went left, right? And what did he do? He expanded health care. He literally did.
But you would say that our education reforms that we passed during that era were far right-wing stuff, but the people we were working with were Polly Williams and Democrats, African-American Democrats in Milwaukee.
I got news for you. There's Democrats who can go right.
Morris, right. But here's the thing is that
you bring up Morris Andrews, I think.
Yeah, Morris Andrews, right? You could have people who have their disputes and still have civil conversations. We've gotten away from that, and that's the piece to me that really, of anybody more than anybody else, Scott Walker decided to wreck, because we used to elect politicians who wanted to do things, and that's what was so impressive about the lieutenant governor. She was a nurse who got angry and said, "I'm going to start going to meetings and eventually run for office." Whether on the right or the left, and having traveled or been all over the country doing races, that's what I found is more important than even what their ideological underpinnings are. What really is, are they angry? Are they a regular person who's had some other experiences?
I think you're totally right, and I think that's completely true. And this is the thing: I think you can be on the right or the left, which I think America likes.
Yeah,
I think America likes right and left.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think the problem is that if you don't do anything, right, then that's really, and so what I would say about our politics is that, and I do disagree with you on school choice.
Yeah.
Strongly. and it's
but
wonderful.
It's become something different.
It has, that's right.
Remember,
when
it's
Tommy
law of unintended consequences. We were up in Eau Claire, and it turns out one of my college buddies is now the superintendent. We had Mike on, and he got talking about, revenue caps and all of that. No one, when that was originally passed, thought that they'd go like 35 years without updating it. And that gets to the dysfunction that our politics has become.
Totally. Totally agree with you.
And they're destroying the state and doing it.
I want to jump in here. 855-752-4842. Mr. Zomers, let's go to the line. We have Dick on the line. I believe Dick's listening in Madison on WMDX. Thanks for calling, Dick. What's he?
Well, I can see her trying to tie in what Bill McCutcheon said, and you guys were trying to figure out when exactly it went south as far as not being civil and just drawing battle lines all the time. And you know when I trace it back to, and I think John just said it, the money. When Citizens United happened, it got ugly. Really,
I think it was ugly before, my friend, but it got downright unlookable ugly. It was so bad.
right.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because the money perverted things so much, and when you've got money backing you heavily in a certain way, well, you're going to have to step in line. I don't have to tell you guys, and just shut up and toe the line for whatever the money's telling you to do.
Thanks, Dick. Really appreciate the call. 855-752-4842. Let's go to the beautiful Fox Valley, listening on WISS in Oshkosh. Cindy from Appleton. Cindy, thanks for calling. What do you got?
Well, I was at Milwaukee Forum last night, and we left after the Kamala Harris speech because we obviously had to get back to Appleton, and we didn't want to be there all night. So I was wondering, though, because we missed the Obama speeches. Were they in Chicago, or were they actually in Milwaukee?
No, they were in Chicago.
The Obamas. That's what I
Both
thought.
of them were in Chicago. Their hometown. They were literally a matter of blocks from their home.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought. And my friend was a little disappointed that we missed them in person. I said, I don't think they're going to be in person. I think they're going
You
to
tell your son you love him very much, and you didn't cheat him out of anything.
What do you think? Just give us a quick. We got about a minute here. Give us a quick lay of the land, Cindy. What was the feel of the room inside Fiserv last night?
Well, the energy was wild, although the music was just, oh my God, so god awful loud. It really was almost to the.
I bet we're probably about the same age.
But Cindy, I got to tell you, that's not the first time the music was loud at Fiserv.
Well, I know that's one reason I don't go to Pfizer. But the point is, it was. I mean, it was a full house, and don't let any of your Republicans that call in tell you that that's not true. There was, there was not a seat left in the house.
Wow.
There were people sitting,
Amazing.
and I know this is a fire code violation, but there were actually people sitting on the steps because there were no seats anymore. The house was packed. I mean, there were just, it was standing and sitting room only. It was just a massive house of people.
That's a great first-hand report, Cindy. Thank you so much for taking the time to call in. Really appreciate it. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. A minute left, John, before the first break here. But what's your sense? You've been to a lot of these. This is our first one for Trivia Night, Democratic National Conventions. Give us the sense.
Been to a lot of conventions.
On this side of the aisle.
Yeah.
But give us the sense on this one compared to others.
Look, I mean, conventions changed a long time ago, right? They became productions.
Right.
My sense of this one is, so far, 2 days in, pretty close to a glitch-free production. And clearly, what you're seeing is the Hollywoodization of both parties, right? But unfortunately for the Republicans, their Hollywoodization only got them to Hulk Hogan. Here, it's a much more it's much more intense. And what they're basically doing is building an arc, right? You begin that first night saying goodbye to Joe Biden. Second night, saying, oh, we recall our heroes and the people we really loved and who really are good at doing this. Tonight, Walls close off with Harris. If they do it right, pretty major bump, I think, politically.
John Nichols, thank you so much for taking the time for us. We really appreciate it. Come on back. Trigby and I will wrap things up here live at the United Center from the Democratic National Convention right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show, the Civic Media Radio Network, when it's now 10 before the hour of 2 o'clock. That's 10 minutes away from ABC and CBS News time, depending upon which one of our great stations here on the Civic Media Radio Network that you listen to, if Todd could talk. And then coming up immediately following that, after a sports update from Mike Clemens, a little weather, you'll have the fantastic Maggie Dawn Show every afternoon from 2 until 4, along with Mr. Brian Kelly, who's doing yeoman's work on the board, and the cameras here for us this afternoon. We appreciate it so very much. It is Maggie Dawn and Brian Kelly right after us at 2 o'clock. John Nichols, so kind to stay around through the break here from the Nation, Cap Times, the Progressive, a soothsayer of elections, as well as Trygve Olsen, senior advisor, like myself, of the Lincoln Project, I should say, like myself, a former Republican. Guys, the two of you follow polls. You have access to info that most of us don't. I want to run through some actual races. Sure. You can do predictions if you want, or just gut checks. Let's start in Wisconsin first at the congressional level. The third congressional level on the western side of the state, Rebecca Cook came through on the Democratic side, a contentious primary that got a little dirty, or ugly at least, at the end with Katrina Shanklin. And you got Derek Van Orton, who is just a dude who attacks people verbally, as a verbal abuser, particularly to teenagers, but yet paints himself as a nice guy who wears a baseball cap and a golden retriever and buys coffee at Quick Trip, although people are saying he buys it at Citgo. But what do you make of this race in the third, guys? Trygve, then John.
Sure.
Leans Republican.
Cook wins. You get Western Wisconsin likes tickets like Harris Walls. Remember, Walls is almost a local boy in the Minneapolis market, also as you move up. So I think that Cook wins. The other thing about Cook that's interesting is she is a indefatigable candidate. She works really hard.
He brings big words.
Yeah, it's a big word. But what it means is
want to bet a beer and some cheese curds at the Old Fashioned on that, John?
Never bet on politics.
On 3.
But you asked me. You asked me. What'll happen? And what I would say is my view is that Cook wins. But doesn't win necessarily all on her own. I think, again, I'm going to hold to this view.
I think what's going to happen
is,
here's the thing. We did some research on that, actually in Wisconsin 3, right? So it's on these right-of-center sort of people who would partisanly, typically, their typical partisan inclination would be to vote for a Republican, but, almost half the time they end up voting for Democrats, right?
Sure.
The thing is, though, and this is why you get Evers-Johnson voters, wherever they cross over, right? So they vote, and we did this across the country, Democrat for president, Democrat for Senate. Suddenly they're feeling like,
I know the theory.
And so I think where Cook's challenge is really going to be keeping these people who are voting for Harris Baldwin, getting them to keep going down the ballot. And that, you'll admit, like, that's a Republican plus maybe 5 sort of.
No,
so she's going to have to attract some of those people. I'm not saying I don't think she can, but it's going to be a lift because she's got 2 amazingly good candidates above her on the list.
I say Cook wins.
All right, very good. Let's move on quickly to the 8th then. Over Kristen Lyerly was just here. We've been very impressed with her. She goes up against this guy, Tony Weed, who I guess has a couple of gas stations. But
I think quite a few.
Well, I'll call it a couple. But he's got this kid who's a Trump political bootlicker up from Florida running his campaign. What happens? John, then.
No, I want to hear this guy on that one.
I would give, if I were giving percentage odds, I would say Lyerly has a 53% chance of winning. Weed 47, but every day that she's out there, she can up it.
In a district where Trump went, 20-some win, plus win,
but
right?
You know what? Like, I can't imagine that the Mark Green, Mike Gallagher Republicans are going Reed Ribble Republicans are going to. I know all 3 of those guys. I would be shocked if when they actually truly went in the voting booth, we're not pulling her.
Here's what I'll tell you: in that district, if Reed Ribble comes out and endorses her, something like that happens, Lyerly can win. This guy's very, he's obviously in the tank for the Democrats. No, I'm teasing.
Now you sound like McConaughey.
No, I'm teasing there. But that's a very, very optimistic view of that race, but not one that I will disagree with.
I think she's got a better chance than Cook.
But a Reed Ribble endorsement could play a big deal up there.
100%.
District 1 down there, we got Brian Stile, the acolyte of Paul Ryan. And he got former Congressman Peter Barco was Secretary of Revenue under Evers as try to get his seat back, basically. John, what do you say?
A lot of money is going to come into that district, more than Democrats have had in a very, very long time. Again, the strength of the Harris-Walz ticket will decide what happens there. I don't agree with this notion that people, especially in that district, where I grew up, I don't believe in this thing of like people, they go find some Republican to vote for or something like that. What I will tell you is, if they're running strong, there's a very, very good chance that Peter Barker could do it. That he will maximize the vote out of Kenosha and do very, very well in Racine, Janesville as well. The one challenge on that is I hate to say it, to really beat an incumbent there, that's an $8 to $10 million district.
Yeah.
You got to get Chicago TV.
I live in that district, and I just got to say it'd be really nice to know that Peter Barker's running.
But that's an $8 to $10 million district to do that, to get the TV.
I know.
But that's the same problem that Cook's going to have up in western Wisconsin. To win St. Croix,
you got to get Minneapolis,
Polk, which is where you got to get those voters. Those voters reside, if it's really close, are going to decide. You got to buy Minneapolis. And when I ran Jim Harsdorf's campaign, you buy Minneapolis for hitting like 3 counties.
I know, you buy one ad.
I helped run Schultz's race against Kine. You have to buy Madison, you have to buy Duluth, you have to buy the Twin Cities, Eau Claire, Wausau, and Iowa.
Dubuque.
You have to buy all those to get to the third.
But Minneapolis TV is incredibly expensive.
It's like Chicago.
Yeah. All right, quickly, let's just do the presidential race. Wisconsin, the three: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. About a minute each.
Okay, go ahead, brother.
Pennsylvania's a toss-up. Michigan, maybe lean Harris today. Wisconsin, toss-up, but Harris is going to win Wisconsin. I'm pretty confident about
Arizona?
that. Arizona's just going to be. It's like Wisconsin. It's going to be close. I actually think like the McCain Republicans might push her over. Like they weren't very sold on Biden, even though they're probably a lot closer to Biden. But yeah, I think kind of like Reed Ribble potentially in the 8th, Cindy could push Harris across.
John Nichols?
Blue Wall, Northern Tier holds for Harris Walls. I mean, I understand polling, respect it. My biggest respect is for patterns, traditions, and that Blue Wall tends.
I think
with a ticket like this, I think those 3 states go. Arizona, complex state. Don't look so much in the Southwest. They'll be looking in the Southeast to North Carolina and Georgia. Remember, you don't need Arizona if you get North Carolina.
Yeah, there's a hot little tip for you. Mr. John Nichols, appreciate you as always. Trivia Olson, you'll be back tomorrow?
I'm back tomorrow.
All right, fantastic. Many thanks to Pat Kreitlow, Kelly Robertson, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, Bill McCoshen, and John Nichols, and all of you, our great production team, Mr. Kelly, Corey Hartman, everybody here. Stay tuned. Maggie Dawn is next. Remember, whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. See you tomorrow from Chicago.